Can Zach Krager be trusted with Resident Evil? Let's talk a little bit about it.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I want to be a fighter, like you.
Oh, let it burn! Let it burn!
Did you miss me?
You have to shoot them in the head. They always come back.
The boat can leave now. Tell the crew.
But sometimes that is better.
Good luck.
Hey everybody, I'm Killjoy Jake. Today we have some very exciting updates on a whole plethora of horror movies, but before we get into that, please make sure to like this video and subscribe for more horror movie update videos just like this one. Thank you all so much for your support. Now let's get into the news. A brand new shot from Evil Dead Burn shows our main character Alice absolutely terrified and bloody-eyed. She seems to be keeping quiet and hiding away from the other Deadites in this house. The film follows Alice after she loses her husband, who seeks solace with her in-laws in their secluded family home. One by one, they're transformed into Deadites, turning the gathering into a family reunion from hell. She comes to discover that the vows she took in life live on even in death. A lot of people are complaining that this film looks very dark based on some of the early marketing and pretty much every still that has come out. There's two big things to that. If you're looking at any of these new images or really any of the trailers, marketing, whatever on your phone, these screens are way darker than what you're actually going to see like at the cinema. This is a movie that is made for a much bigger screen, so I'm sure it's going to be fine when we see it in the theaters or maybe at home on our televisions come a couple of months from now. It's Evil Dead 6, baby. I can't help but be excited. This one drops on July 10th. Look out for it. Andre Overdahl's new movie Passenger is currently in theaters, and he's also the director of a ton of other really big horror hits, including Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, as well as The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I think, is great gateway horror. It's not necessarily like the best movie ever made by any means, but I also do think that it's got some really scary monsters and some great recreations from the books that they're based off of. That movie was a pretty big hit at the box office, but sadly a sequel has not come to fruition, and now Andre Overdahl tells us that's because there's a whole bunch of crazy shit going on behind the scenes. During an interview with Slash Film this past week, Andre Overdahl says that he's personally really ready to make this new film. He said specifically, "What I can say is that it's been stuck in a bit of a copyright ownership hell with two studios that don't exist anymore, that produced the movie together, CBS Films and E1. The rights spread out to two other companies, then they have to agree to figure it out between them, and that has taken some time. We do have conversations about it once every couple of months, and there is currently some movement I'm gathering. But it becomes about legal departments and not about creatives, because we have a story that I love that is just ready to go whenever somebody decides I own the movie, let's go make it." The same creatives from the 2019 movie would return to do this sequel, and it kinda needs to happen considering we were left on a cliffhanger way back when. Hopefully this story will continue soon with more of those creepy monsters from those books. Anytime I talk about Undertone, the movie gets ripped to shreds in the comments, it seems. I might be the only person on planet Earth who thinks it's one of the best horror releases of the year. If you missed this one, though, because of the mixed reviews, I recommend you check it out on streaming when it drops on June 26th to HBO Max. It's definitely not a film for everybody, but if you're someone like me who likes two things specifically, creepypastas, as well as audio-based horror, I really think you gotta at least give this one a try. I'm someone who personally thinks that when it comes to a good horror film, visuals are nowhere near as important as sound. Undertone completely and utterly understands that, and that's why I think it's a really brilliant exercise. I'm personally excited to see if more people decide to check this one out when it comes to streaming. I think it's a really solid movie. I'm gonna be doing a video late June as well on it, because I didn't really get a review out when this one dropped in theaters. I was super busy that weekend. Another incentive to watch this movie is that director Ian Tuason is currently working on the next Paranormal Activity flick, which drops sometime in the middle of next year. On top of that, Ian has talked about how he already has some ideas for sequels to Undertone. Sequels! He wants to make this a whole damn franchise. So like I said, give this one a try, or maybe another try come this June. Radio Silence is filling up their schedule as they're not only working on The Mummy 4, but also an adaptation of those Choose Your Own Adventure books. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, basically there's these form of books where it's like you read a certain amount of it and then it says like, do you want to do this or that? And then you like flip ahead to page 49 or something and then you kind of pick a path. So you are literally thrown into the protagonist's shoes and have to make decisions based on the information that you can gather. I read some of these when I was a child, so this is kind of super nostalgic for me. me, and I'm really excited to see how they actually bring that to movie form. Could we see a protagonist making decisions, fucking up, and then going back somehow? Like maybe they have some sort of time-altering device? I don't know. I feel like that has to be a factor, though, in this story. How else do you bring that element to the screen? Radio Silence seems to be leaning away from horror more into like an action-adventure space, especially considering that they're continuing the Mummy franchise and now they're doing this. Dread Central did exclusively report, though, that horror elements will be present here, just like how in the Mummy 4 there will probably be horror elements as well. I mean, dude, that 1999 movie is definitely a little scary even to this day. I'm personally really vibing with Radio Silence's career evolution. I think it's been really interesting to see them try out some different genres. I wouldn't want to see them stagnate and just do the same thing over and over and over again. I can't wait for Mummy 4 and whatever this movie's about to be. Hopefully we'll see some cast members from some of their previous projects. Ginger Snaps is such a great werewolf movie from the early 2000s. Riffing off of the same themes as Stephen King's Carrie, Ginger Snaps uses lycanthropy as a metaphor for a young teenage girl going through puberty. It's one of those young adult stories that I think is just always going to be relatable, and we've seen it time after time, especially considering the fact that the movie Jennifer's Body is basically the same thing as this, just take out the whole werewolf element. There's always going to be stories like this in horror time and time again. Now it seems like the original cast and creators are coming back to the world of Ginger Snaps for some sort of new series. Chatting with Dread Central, John Fawcett, the director of the original Ginger Snaps flick, gave an update on the television adaptation that was announced all the way back in October of 2020. He said, "That is still very much a hot topic right now. It's a passion project of mine. It's a work in progress, but it's been a long and winding road. There is some heat and some creative minds working on this as we speak." Original cast members Emily Perkins and Catherine Isabel promised that somehow their characters would return, but the series would also follow a brand new set of girls maybe dealing with a similar situation. It sounds like we could be rewriting history a little bit here. Maybe these characters are coming back and maybe they have kids or something along those lines. Doing the typical requel thing. Every IP from the 90s and early thousands is gonna get this treatment whether we like it or not. I can't complain though, because I think Ginger Snaps is one of the most overlooked Scream-inspired projects from like the early 2000s when that trend was slowly starting to die a little bit. There's a lot of werewolf movies and not a ton of them are great. This is a rare exception. Stay tuned for more updates on this mysterious series. I sadly do not think that the Scary Movie popcorn bong is real. The marketing team for Scary Movie recently released a video of a bunch of bongs with Scary Movie labels on them filled with popcorn. Sadly, I don't think these are real for a number of reasons. First of all, how you sticking your hand in that tiny little tube to get popcorn? And secondly, dude, if they sell these things, people are gonna smoke out of them. There is no way in hell they are going to be selling glass bongs at a movie theater, dude. I promise you that's not happening. If they did sell these, they would be made out of plastic, and if you tried to smoke, well, something out of them, they would melt in your hand. So while I doubt that these are real, goddamn, I would love one, you know, for no specific reason, just to put on the set. Of course. Scary Movie releases in a couple of weeks here on June 5th, and you know your boy's gonna be seeing it and putting out some sort of review. Stay tuned. We finally got to see some footage from Victorian Psycho, a movie that we've been talking about here and there kind of in these little update videos. It's a crazy movie though that stars Micah Monroe as a psycho in the Victorian era. The trailer showcases a dead old woman, which kind of feels like regular Psycho, and Micah Monroe being able to play a crazy little weirdo.
Squeezing hard.
Micah's most notable credits, like It Follows and Longlegs, kind of put her in the protagonist seat, but every now and then she does get to play the villain. Take last year's The Hand That Rocked the Cradle, for instance, a movie that I wasn't necessarily crazy about, but I did love Micah Monroe's villainous performance. A manipulative performance at that. The synopsis for this one reads, in 1858, a young eccentric governess named Winifred Noddy arrives at the remote Gothic manor known as Ensor House. As Winifred assimilates into life at Ensor House, staff members begin to inexplicably disappear, and the owner of the estate begins to wonder if something is amiss about their new governess. The flick got some pretty positive reactions at Cannes Film Festival last week, and it's been described as, well, American Psycho, but during the Victorian era. It's pretty self-explanatory even if you haven't seen the trailer, but definitely make sure you check it out because this one looks like a ton of fun. Blood, guts, and metal music are featured throughout the entire trailer, so this one is certainly going to deliver for the psychopaths out there. It also features the crazy underrated Thomasin McKenzie, who I think makes the movie Last Night in Soho. This is easily one of the movies I am the most excited for moving into this fall, with this one releasing on September 25th. The week before Victorian Psycho comes out, we're finally going to see Zach Cregger's Resident Evil, a movie that has been very hot and cold with the fan base. A brand new behind-the-scenes featurette has come out, however, where Zach Cregger assures fans, hey, you can trust me, I know what I'm doing. Cregger talks a little bit about how this Resident Evil movie is going to focus much more on the experience of playing a Resident Evil game. He said in this video that looks like it takes place at an underground Umbrella lab, Resident Evil is kind of the flagship for survival horror. Horror, it's not action. What I love about survival horror games and Resident Evil mostly is this overwhelming feeling of dread, where it's like I have to go down this long dark passageway, I have 2 shotgun shells, I know there's a lot of shit in there waiting for me, and it's all really bad, but I have to go. He also talks a little bit about how Austin Abrams is essentially his self-insert, a character who really has no knowledge of how to use guns, and oftentimes misuses his scarce amount of ammo. We even get to see a new shot from the film where he tries to shoot a lock and misses.
God damn it.
I personally am so excited to see this version of Resident Evil. This to me is what I want from a Resident Evil feature adaptation, not just a retelling of one of the stories that I've already played through. Why would I do that when I can just play Resident Evil 2 again, or Resident Evil 3, or Resident Evil Requiem, the new game which fucking kicked ass? I want this to be Zach Cregger or anyone behind the camera's undivided vision of how they feel about Resident Evil. That's at least what I love so much about movies. I think when it comes to adaptations of other things, some people want one-to-one adaptations, exactly like how it is from the books, comic books, video games, whatever. That's just not how I look at movies. These are collaborative, creative efforts to create something fresh and new. I've played through a lot of these games before too, and I don't want to see the exact same story that I already know all the beats of. I think something like this holds a lot more value and substance and is going to be something that will shock any fan who comes to the theaters to see it. It's kind of crazy having to defend Zach Cregger so much too, the guy who has easily made 2 of the best horror films of the 2020s so far with Weapons and Barbarian. I'm personally really looking forward to it when it drops on September 18th. I think this is going to be one of the better releases of the year. If you missed Scream 7 in theaters, the movie finally arrives on digital this week to Paramount Plus. On Thursday, May 28th, you'll finally be able to watch Scream 7 on Paramount Plus. Ghostface's latest massacre has been streaming digitally for a while, but you had to pay for it. Now you just gotta pay for a subscription to Paramount Plus. So I guess that's a little less. The movie follows Sydney Prescott, who has moved to the quiet town of Pine Grove, Indiana. Her darkest fears are realized when a new Ghostface killer emerges, coming after her daughter, played by Isabel May. Determined to protect her family, Sydney must face the horrors of her past to put an end to the bloodshed once and for all. As you may or may not know, I really wasn't crazy about Scream 7. I feel like this was a major dud. But if you haven't seen it yet, check it out this Thursday and form your own opinion. It sounds like Scream 8 is already moving forward as there's some rumblings about it behind the scenes. So maybe we'll have some more updates on hopefully a better movie to follow. Stay tuned for all of that jazz. How do you guys feel about today's updates and which one was your favorite? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.